This is not going to be a short conflict, and that means it's going to be probably into 2025 before they are pushing the Russians out of the main part of Ukraine. Well, no F-16s till next year. Again, it's coming out. It highlights the real difficulty that there is in getting people trained, not just to fly an airframe, but to fight an airframe and the political issues that there are around it. Now, we have to be slightly careful here because it could be part of a wider disinformation campaign not to let the Russians know when the F-16s are going to be ready and Ukrainian pilots are going to be trained on them. You have to take that with a little bit of pinch of salt. There is training going on at the moment, but it is a very complex airframe. And complex weapon systems for pilots, even experienced pilots, to be trained on. The worst case scenario would be putting unprepared pilots in a Western aircraft over complex Russian air defense systems, and they then get shot down. You lose the trained pilot, you lose the aircraft, and you lose the political will to support. So if it takes a little bit longer to get everyone ready, that's the way it's going to be. And unfortunately, it reflects the fact that this conflict is not going to be over anytime soon. I think the F-16 decision might be an indication to suggest that the West is beginning to wake up to the reality that the counteroffensive isn't going to have the same immediate successes that the Ukrainian counteroffensives last year in Kharkiv and Kherson did, and that this is a long, slow slog and is going to take many, many months. It is unlikely that the Ukrainians are going to be able to properly exploit any opportunities they've created this year, and it may be well into next year before they start to take big chunks of territory back. And that means it's going to be probably into 2025 before they are pushing the Russians out of the main part of Ukraine and properly influencing into Crimea. This is not going to be a short conflict, and our politicians wanted it to be. I think even the Ukrainian politicians and President Zelensky wanted it to be. But from a military perspective, the level of defenses that the Russians have got on the ground are unsurpassed. I don't think we even saw anything as complex during the Second World War. And the Ukrainians are having to attack this without preparation from the air, with limited assets on the ground, very carefully, so they don't waste not just their personnel, but the Western equipment that's coming in that's going to be so vital to them exploiting. They're doing a fantastic job, slowly but surely weakening the Russians across the whole of the front. And we have to recognize that that is militarily very expedient in what they're doing and what they're achieving. It may not give us the political achievements that we want in the timeframes that we would hope, but militarily they've still got the initiative and they're still progressing well. I think across the board, the very rapid successes Ukraine had last year, and the political expediency that there is within the West. Everything has to be done by tomorrow, done by next week. And we've got two major elections coming up in the United States, the presidential election, in the UK, the parliamentary elections. We've also got the Russian elections coming up. And therefore, politically, I think our current sets of politicians across the globe were pushing very hard for Ukraine to have some success within the next 12 months maximum. However, you cannot allow political decision-making timelines to influence what's going on militarily. Otherwise, you could be pushed easily into a position where you will lose. The Ukrainians aren't letting that happen. And that is why I think we have to recognize that what the speed of the Ukrainian advance will be dictated by what they're coming across on the ground. They don't want to cause unnecessary casualties, and the casualties are enormous at the moment. The last thing that the Ukrainian people want are even more put on top of that because of Western political pressure.